Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crash Zoom. I'm Sammie Purcell, Associate Editor with Rough Draft Atlanta, and I'm here, as always, with indie filmmaker Aaron Strand. How you doing today, Aaron?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here. I just spent an hour and a half at the bank, which is like nothing anyone should ever want in life, but I got along great with the bank manager, Tammy from Jamaica. Mm-hmm. Tammy, if you're listening, I don't know why you would be, but you made my hour and a half banking experience so wonderful. And it was a real testament to the in real life. I wouldn't go so far as to call the Bank of America lobby a third space, but it really did. It really did emphasize the importance of just a nice person and the kind of quality interactions you could have on a customer service level, which I think we might be touching upon later in the episode.
Oh, that's really lovely. It makes me think, did you happen to see the film Problemista? I think it came out last year. You know what I'm talking about?
I have not. With Tilda Swinton and yeah.
There's a very funny joke about Bank of America that isn't that I'm sure Tammy was lovely, but it's not very kind to the Bank of America.
Oh, I've had a terrible experience. I've been a Bank of America, I've banked with them. My first ever bank account was opened with Bank of America 15 years ago. And they have had nothing but a negative experience until I met Tammy today.
Until you met Tammy. Wow, that's great. You should watch just for that joke. It was like one of the funniest jokes I'd seen in a movie that year. It was great.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well, if this is your first episode of Crash Zoom, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And if you listen today and you like what you hear, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also watch us on YouTube at Crash Zoom Podcast. And be sure to rate and review too. That really helps us out.
Those YouTube numbers really going up, Sammy. I gotta tell you, where the view count is increasing, the subs are increasing. I want to see more of that. If this is really coming across your algo, you got to hit that subscribe button, especially over there on YouTube. Us out.
Yeah, we're really big on YouTube. That's what I like to say. Over here at Crash Zoom, what we like to do is take a look at what's going on in the film industry, the kind of more big picture news items, and try to boil down why that matters to the independent local filmmaker. Sorry, I'm not talking well today. If you listen a lot, you know that happens all the time. I sometimes have trouble stringing a sentence together, But what we like to do here is sometimes talk about, movies, our favorite movies, make some lists. And we're also going to get into that today. But before we do, what have you been watching recently, Aaron?
I watched a fantastic documentary that I rented here in Atlanta at beloved video rental store Videodrome. I rented Terry Zwigoff's Crumb, about the psychedelic cartoonist Robert Crumb. This is a documentary from 1994, and it was fantastic. This has been on the watch list for a long time. I was really not familiar with ARCOM's. You encounter his work as part of pop culture, and probably more so as a kid than today. But the documentary was amazing. Oh my God. It was at times disturbing, at times enlightening. Ultimately, it was just one of those amazing, intimate portraits of a real, capital A artist, the kind of person who he can't help it but be brilliant. But what's even more so is that he was also just so married to the game. I found it very inspiring, even though there's things about ARCOM that are controversial. But I was all on board. I love him. I love the doc, and amazing film.
Okay, I've never heard of that before. I'll have to check it out. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, Terry Zwigoff of Bad Santa fame.
Wow, amazing stuff. I can't talk about some of what I've been watching because I was doing a little prep for our list making exercise this week. So I'll get to some of those later.
Oh wow. You went deep.
Yeah, I did. I didn't do as much as I wanted to. There's one movie in particular I really wish I could have rewatched before we did this, but it's fine. It's fine. But I've also been trying to fill in some kind of big blind spots. So I recently watched Overboard, which is the Gary Marshall movie. It's the rom-com starring Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Wow.
And It is pretty incredible how watchable this really misogynistic piece of crap is.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of a misogynistic disaster. Do you know what the premise of this is?
Wait, this is the remake of the Lena Wertmuller Swept Away, right?
Perhaps, I'm not sure.
She's a wealthy woman. They get
Yeah.
trapped on an
Yeah,
island,
and I
and then
think
he's
they remade it again with Anna Faris, but I think in that version the man loses his memory, has amnesia, and
oh
if
wait,
I'm
there's
not
amnesia.
mistaken.
Okay, wait, maybe this isn't a Swept Away remake.
So Goldie Hawn plays like a rich, really bratty, entitled younger wife of whoever plays the grandpa on Gilmore Girls. I can't remember that actor's name, but I do love him. But in Kurt Russell he is like a plumber or like a handyman who's kind of hired to like fix something on their boat, and she ends up like destroying all his stuff. She like throws his tools in the water, she costs him a lot of money, and then she ends up falling off the boat and losing her memory. And to get back at her, he like pretends that he's her husband and makes her like take care of his house and his 4 children. Like all this
Wow,
crazy stuff. It is a wild premise. Of course they end up together because why not?
true love
But
prevails
true
because
love
true love
prevails.
prevails.
As a Letterboxd review that I saw said, she learns that she can be rich and also drink beer. Um but it is so dumb and like honestly really bad. But it's sort of a testament to Goldie Hawn's like comedy skills that it's like anywhere close to watchable. And Kurt Russell's like pretty charming and he's really playing a heel, but you know,
He's good.
but yeah, he's good at that. So it was like what I was just kind of watching it and I was like, I'm like amazed how bad this is. And yet it's like incredibly easy to watch, which is like, that's a real testament to Gary Marshall, I guess.
Wow.
But
So, okay,
yeah.
2 things. Number 1, this is definitely not a remake of the Lena Wertmuller masterpiece Swept
Okay.
Away,
That would be weird.
which has been remade as an American movie. I
Okay.
just can't remember the
Mm-hmm.
name of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2, also, it's so weird that you would even label this film a blind spot. Like, this is such a blind spot for me. I'm even blind to the blind spot. I would never
I
think to put this
feel
on.
I feel like it's a big movie within like the kind of romantic comedy slapsticky canon. Like I'm
Mm.
trying to make my way through kind of the Gary Marshalls I haven't seen. So he's like Runaway Bride, Princess Diaries, Georgia Rule, if you know. But then he's also made I think he's made all the holiday movies, like, Mother's Day, New Year's Eve, Valentine's Day, that kind of stuff. He's also, but like at the same time, he's the director of like Pretty Woman. So like he has the juice when he, I guess, wants to. I don't know. And this one was just like a very not for me movie, but I can totally see why people get kind of like swept up in how funny Goldie Hawn is, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. Love Goldie
Yeah,
Hawn.
she's great. But that was my little side note besides the other stuff that I watched for our little exercise today.
Wow.
But
Yeah. What a wacky. Once again, between the two
it
of
was
us,
very wacky.
what a wacky pairing.
Yeah.
Although both of our films did have misogynistic elements, so
They did,
that's good.
It's like women can resist misogyny unless it's Kurt Russell shaped, I guess. But
Or drawn by ARCOM.
I guess so. But all right, so let's get into our little list making fun time today. So
Yeah. Where did you come up
sure,
with this idea? Yeah.
so if you've listened to this, I feel like we've talked a little. If you listen to this podcast, I feel like we talked a little bit about like A Complete Unknown. We've talked a lot about the Timmy press run and like that whole thing. But out of that conversation, I don't know if we've ever like said this explicitly on the podcast, but Aaron hates music biopics.
Hate
Would
'em.
you say that's an accurate statement? Yes.
I hate them. I hate them with a passion.
Say it loud. But I feel pretty meh about the genre as a whole, We'll get into like specifics, but take it or leave it. But if you've been paying any attention to the news, and this is kind of a funny news cycle because I feel like we already knew this casting news, but for some reason, everyone's like, I guess because of Cinemacon, which we will also talk about today, everyone is talking about it. So the Beatles have been cast for the 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Sam Mendes movies that are going to be coming out about the Beatles. I have some questions about that too, which we can talk about later. But the Beatles will be portrayed by Harris Dickinson, who will be playing John Lennon. Paul Mescal, who'll be playing Paul McCartney, Barry Keoghan, who'll be playing Ringo Starr, and Joseph Quinn, who will be playing George Harrison. So I think I sent this to you because we had talked about Harris Dickinson recently in conjunction with James Bond, and we were speculating about the possibility of him being James Bond because his IMDb was empty. And then this popped up and I went, oh yeah, that's why. Okay. Got it. And I sent it to you, and I believe your direct response was an eye roll emoji, maybe? Or
No,
just the word,
I think it was a
like
vomit face emoji.
a vomit face emoji. That's a lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
But that, it made me laugh. And then I thought, wouldn't it be fun to make Aaron pick his favorite 5 movies in a genre that he hates? I thought that would
Oh,
be pretty fun. So
oh
that's what we're doing
God.
today. There's been a lot of music biopics in the past few years. Like, I feel like there's always kind of a lot of them out in the, you know, atmosphere or whatever. But there's a lot over the past few years, and these Beatles ones, we can also talk about the release strategy later. I'm a little confused about how that's working.
Oh
But
God.
it's going to be all over the news, like for the next, 5 years. They come out in 2027 or 2026. I can't remember. But then there's like the awards campaign, these are going to be like all up in our grill for the foreseeable future at this point.
Oh, yes, we will be living
Yeah.
under, and I mean, which is just so unfortunate. And like, let me just kind of start before we get into our lists. We each did a top 5 music biopics of all time. Spoiler: I have not picked one that has been made after I think 2008. So, a
Okay.
testament to my hatred of particularly recent music biopics. I
I
hate them
think I only have
because.
one that was, so
Yeah, I'm not surprised because
yeah.
they're
Mm-hmm.
terrible. So the reason why I hate music biopics because they I'm ultimately they're not for me. I feel like these
Mm-hmm.
are stories meant for people who have not really engaged with the music or have engaged with these artists through like other media and are looking for
Hmm.
sort of an entry point and an easy sort of education into the background. And that's where I think that they actually serve a real purpose. But as far as like telling the story of these artists and telling a comprehensive story of what it means to be an artist, I do think that the music biopics do an incredible disservice to the artistic legacies, the real stories, and the actual people that delivered us some of the most incredible, beautiful pieces of art of the 20th or 21st century. And so, in that sense, I think that the music biopics cheapen, degrade, harm the legacy of the artists that they're attempting to glamorize, and it's the core
Hmm.
of my hatred for this genre. But let's get into it. I've dug deep to find some pieces that I think are of value here.
Sure. All right. How do you want to do this? Because I also have some honorable mentions. So how do
I
you want
have
to?
none.
All
I
right. Should I just go through mine
I
first?
struggled to get 5. Yeah, lay out your
Okay.
OLIs here.
Okay. So this is one that I watched for the first time this weekend, and that's Behind the Candelabra from Steven Soderbergh. So that's the Liberace sort of biopic, but really covering his 6-year relationship with a much younger man who worked for him, played by Matt Damon in the movie. And I quite liked this movie. I tend to gravitate more towards just biopics in general, not even music related, that like focus on a specific amount of time or focus on a very specific aspect of like that person's life. And I also liked that this was not through the eyes of Liberace himself. I thought that was a real testament to it. I didn't ultimately end up picking it, although I really liked it and actually found it pretty devastating towards the end. I didn't end up picking it because it's a made for TV movie, and I think you can really tell, like, it looks like TV.
Mhm.
Soderbergh's trying stuff, but it kind of looks like TV. I think it was a HBO, I believe, in like 2013, something like that. But I really liked it. It's still on HBO. Really fun watch, like very funny, but then ends up like in a pretty devastating place. I thought that was my first honorable mention. I won't spend quite as much time on the others. I know that was a long thing, but it really came close to cracking the top 5. So I wanted to give it a little. The other one is a more recent one. It came out last year. It's called Kneecap. It's from Rich Pepiat. It's about the Northern Ireland like rap group. That movie is sort of about their formation, yes, but also their kind of insistence on keeping the Irish language alive. It has a lot to do with that sort of struggle in the north of Ireland. Again, I've been reading a lot about Ireland lately. But I thought that movie was pretty propulsive and fun, but I didn't know anything about that group going into that movie. So that was kind of a fun experience, going in completely blind. Another one I almost picked was Love and Mercy, which is the Brian Wilson biopic that came out a few years ago. I ultimately didn't because it's been so long since I saw it and I could not fit it in for a rewatch. And so I didn't go with it, but I remember really liking it and how it was structured. It sort of goes back and forth between two timelines. And then I texted you about these next two because I ultimately decided they count technically, but they don't count for the spirit of what this exercise is. And those are Tick, Tick, Boom and The Sound of Music. Music biopics, technically, about musicians and real life.
Wait.
But yeah,
Tick,
The Sound of
Boom.
Music is about real people.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, sure.
I didn't end up picking it, but I wanted to shout them out because they technically are music biopics.
No. Okay. Yeah, sure.
But
good choice.
But I didn't end up.
I know. I really like Tick, Tick, Boom, for the record.
Me too. It's awesome. I'm a huge Jonathan Larson Brent person, so I thought it was great. But
I just think the way they did it and was really, really smart and really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
A wonderful adaptation to a film that on so many levels shouldn't have worked.
Right, because the history of that piece is so journeyed, and there's been so many different versions. But yeah, I really enjoyed that movie too. I thought Andrew Garfield was great.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. But okay, so those are my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I guess now I'll start with. Do we just want to go back and forth 5-1?
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Count us down.
All right. So I'm going to do my number 5 first, and for a little preface, I tried to pick biopics that I think are not the straightforward kind, like the cradle to grave, kind of walk hard, joke. I didn't always succeed, but I have good reasons, I think, for the ones that I picked that didn't kind of fit that mold. And that is my number 5 is one of those, and it's Selena from Gregory Nava. And I wanted to shout out Selena because I wanted to have at least one movie on this list that I think is legitimately a star-making performance. So that's what I think this movie did for J-Lo, and that's what one of these can do for someone. They do have the ability to sort of mint someone in a certain way. I think you could argue that kind of happened for Timmy this past year, even if he was already a pretty big name. I think it kind of elevated him to a new status. I really do. He is I think unequivocally movie star now. And I think that could have been called into question before.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't agree with that as far. I think his press tour and the way he leveraged the exposure.
But the movie has so much to do with that. And I think people were really worried about that performance, and he came out pretty unscathed. Yeah. And even better for it,
No, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. But I just think it's just so weird to that these movies they're so exploitative. They just exploit. They're they administer fame by the proximity to fame, and I find that very strange.
Yeah, I think the Selena one is interesting because her family, it happened so soon after that tragedy.
Yeah.
And her family was so involved in it, and that also kind of has limitations in some ways. In some ways you want them to be super involved, and then there are also it's a difficult kind of thing to parse, I think. But I think Selena is a pretty good biopic, a pretty good version of what this is, and has an amazing performance from J-Lo at the center. When she's on her movie star shit, she's on her movie star shit. And so for sure, that's my number 5.
Yeah. No doubt. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you'll probably hear this from me a lot because I haven't seen it. And there's so many blind spots within this genre because I do avoid it like the plague. A lot of stuff I haven't seen. So there's a lot of things that even I was researching, trying to figure out my list. It was just I haven't seen.
That's so funny. Because I feel Selena is kind of a middle school movie classic. I know so many people who are yeah, that was a movie a teacher turned on when we didn't have anything to do in 7th grade.
Wow, that is wild.
That's when I saw it for the first time. Yeah.
At school, they rolled the card in?
That's not even the 10th craziest movie I watched at school, Aaron.
What?
You have no idea.
Oh my God.
We watched scenes. I asked my dad this because I was pretty sure I was making it up because I know we watched 13 Days, the JFK Cuban Missile Crisis movie. I know we watched that.
Okay.
And I was I kept having this memory of watching scenes from JFK not the full thing, but like,
From the
because
Oliver
that's
Stone movie?
inappropriate. Yes. And I kept having like, because I remember, well, I haven't seen that movie in forever, but I have a vivid memory of sitting in a classroom and watching like left, front, or back and to the left, back and to the left, like that whole in that Kevin Costner accent. And I'm pretty sure I asked my dad like a few years ago, I was like, I have to be making that up, right? And he was like, no, they definitely showed you scenes from that when you were learning about the Kennedy assassination.
Oh my
So
God. What
I
school did
watched
you go
crazy
to?
movies in school. At Georgia Public School, I don't know.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
But
That's
yeah.
that's horrifying. I would be so horrified as a parent if I heard that. Anyway, okay, my number 5. Can I go ahead with my list
Yep.
here? Anything else you
Go
want to
for
say
it.
about Selena? Okay. Or
Nope.
JFK? Okay. My number 5 really it this does uphold all the things that I hate about rock, rap, pop biopics. But it is Control by Anton Corbijn, the Ian Curtis,
Oh.
um, Joy Division. This one
Okay.
came out in like
Yeah.
2008. And so it does all the things that I hate. It does glamorize the story. They cast a more attractive actor than the actual like musician,
Mm-hmm.
even though he looks similar, but he's like a hot version. I mean, Ian Curtis was already an attractive person, but he was kind of like ugly handsome, and they just cast like a genuinely just like beautiful man, like in his
Mm-hmm.
place, and it gives this sort of glossy glamour of what was actually like an incredibly gritty, um, you know, artistically explosive, non-glamorous career of this band that I love. But I had to put it on the list because at the time when it came out in 2008, I had no idea who Joy Division was. I saw this movie at Athens at Cine in Athens, the little independent theater there. I remember I was home for a break from college. I think between like freshman and sophomore year, winter break,
Mm-hmm.
freshman year, something like that. I just saw it playing, had no idea, showed up to the cinema. It was one of those times I like, going to the movies alone at like 10 p.m. I saw the movie, blew my mind, and it uses the music of Joy Division to such great effect.
Sure.
And Joy Division is still to this day one of my favorite bands. An incredible band. And so the movie does hold this. It served its purpose, which was it educated me to a musical experience that I was otherwise not privy to. But I have not gone back and rewatched it. I will not go back and rewatch this movie because it exists perfectly in the mind of my
Right.
18-year-old self. Anything else from that is most likely going to be disappointing. So
Right.
number
You don't want to
5,
mess it up.
Control. Yes, don't mess that up. Don't mess that
Nice.
up.
I've never seen this, so I might have to check it out. See
You
if
could
I'll
just
let you
listen
know
to
if it
Joy
looks up.
Division. I would also just recommend listening to Joy Division. Also, is not
Good
the
one.
last time that Joy Division is going to come up in my list today. So,
Oh my God.
very
Okay.
biopicable.
Nice. All right. My number 4 is probably another sort of, I guess, formulaic one, but I think it makes a very interesting choice that helps it kind of skirt a lot of those issues. And that is Coal Miner's Daughter from
Yes.
Michael Apted. So this was one of the ones I watched for the first time over the weekend because it was like a big music biopic blind spot for me.
Whoa.
And I love Loretta Lynn, so it's like,
Yeah.
a long time coming. And I weirdly found it so comforting, even though it can be like, frankly, I think it does like the opposite of what you were saying as far as glamorizing. Like,
Yes.
the relationship between her and Tommy Lee Jones is like really dark and messed up in so many different ways. And like her early life was so difficult. And I think it
Mhm.
doesn't shy away from that. But kind of going off of that, I think the movie makes a very smart decision to only really focus on that relationship. Like, obviously, you have like her singing at the Opry and like, but none of that like happens outside of like the focus of what the movie is about, which is their relationship. Like her
Yeah.
first time singing at the Opry is like paired with him at the bar getting in a fight, right? And so I actually was thinking a lot of Walk the Line kind of while I was watching, just because I think the parts that really work about that movie are the relationship. And I was like, what if they just focused on the Johnny and June of it all,
Yeah.
But I really loved this movie. I thought like all with all their flaws and all that like awfulness that kind of happens between them, they felt so much like a real couple. And I thought it was great. I love Sissy Spacek so
Oh
much.
my
She's
God,
amazing.
this
Yeah.
is I'm if
Hmm.
I was to have an OLI, this would be one of them. I saw this movie. I considered it for my list. I saw this movie as a little kid on TV, I believe, and I watched it
Hmm.
with my
Yeah.
parents. And I was 7 years old, no idea who Loretta Lynn was, whatever.
Hmm.
But this movie made such an impression on my little brain. I have never
Oh,
forgotten it. I've
yeah.
never forgotten Sissy Spacek in this movie. It like imprinted on my psyche.
Hmm.
And even though I have not watched it since I was like 7 or 8 years old,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always hold this movie in high esteem. That's why I didn't put it on the list, because I didn't feel totally justified.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
yes,
Hmm. And I
um,
believe she's really singing, which is always a plus in my book. She sounds great.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
Okay, number four. This was not on like any of the lists that I was reading online as I was like looking for inspiration, but I'm so glad it popped in my head. Number four is Topsy Turvy by Mike Leigh, which is
Okay.
about Gilbert and Sullivan
Yeah.
trying to break up, but also then coming together to make the Mikado. Um, is a wonderful movie. It's not, I mean, yes, it's a biopic because it's about Gilbert and Sullivan, but it's also about the theater. It's about London at this like very particular time in the Victorian, like late Victorian London. It's Mike Leigh, so it's just it's just filled with charm and texture and characters, and the
Hmm.
performances are just incredible. I saw this movie the first time maybe 2 years ago as part of the Arroyo Film Club, and I just really, really love this movie. Topsy Turvy is amazing. It's a little long for a Mike Leigh
Yeah.
film. I think it's like 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. But really, really worth it. Really maintains, and an incredibly delightful film.
This came up for me because I asked for recommendations from some people, and someone
Ooh,
did recommend this one, and I haven't seen it, but I am really looking forward to it.
you
It
will
sounds
love
great.
this movie.
Yeah. Hmm.
This is
Okay.
this is
I'm
definite.
excited.
This is the Sammie Aron Venn diagram crossover.
Wow. Yeah. Cool. I'm so excited. That sounds awesome. All right. Okay. My number three, possibly a hot take. I might be on an island here.
Ooh,
Um, but that is Maestro from Sir Bradley Cooper.
okay.
He's not a sir, but I'm a Maestro defender. I'm also a Bradley Cooper defender. Bradley Cooper director defender specifically.
Yeah.
Um, I think what I like about this movie is that, and it's funny because I think this is what a lot of people struggle with, and I know a lot about Leonard Bernstein, so that probably helps me in this regard. It is so uninterested in any of his like professional success. Like it really barely touches on them. And I think for me, that's sort of an interesting and a risk that I think Bradley Cooper takes very confidently, because the Leonard Bernstein movie professionally is, well, someone got sick one day and he went and conducted and he was really good and then he was really good for the rest of his life. Like it's not, there's not a ton of like, I guess like mass is probably like kind of a little conflicty and stuff, but his professional successes were pretty much revered, and his personal life is like the thing that's so interesting, his relationship with his wife Alicia and his relationships with other men and his like kind of self-loathing and everything that he went through in that regard. And this movie is really interested, I think, in the tension between his inner life and his public life, his relationship with his wife and his relationship to celebrity specifically, which for someone like Bradley Cooper to interrogate is very interesting because he probably, I would assume, kind of struggles with similar things. So I really love this movie. I think everyone else is sort of on the island of, yeah, it's interesting, but it's just fine. But it really moves me. I think the performances are really great. Carey Mulligan is like amazing in this movie, and I really love her. Yeah, so Maestro, Bradley Cooper.
Nice. Very
Hmm.
good. Very good. Haven't seen it. Haven't seen it.
I figured.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
Shout out to my friend Kate Eastman, who plays Ellen Adler in that movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Who is wonderful,
That's awesome.
but I haven't
That's
seen the
very
movie
cool.
yet.
I will say, I had not seen it. I rewatched it, and Cameron watched it for the first time last night. Um, and I hadn't seen it since I saw it on a theater, I believe on 35 millimeter. I can't remember, but it definitely on film. And I remember like when I saw it in the theater being like, this looks incredible. Like I can't believe how good this looks. And watching it last night, I don't know if it's like the compression on streaming. There were parts of it where the CGI was not CGIing. And I was really disappointed. It made me like so upset at how streaming like compresses the theatrical experience. It was very strange.
Yeah, it'll do that.
Yeah. It was upsetting. I was like,
So, like,
because
wait, so, like, you just weren't buying it? Like, you weren't able to suspend
it just,
disbelief?
and not so much that. I was just like, ooh, that doesn't look quite as seamless and real as I thought it did when I
Mm,
saw it in a theater, if that makes sense.
yeah, the illusion was
Yeah.
broken.
It was
Yep.
sad, but still a great movie.
Small screen problems.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 for me is 24-Hour Party People by Michael Winterbottom. This is where the Joy Division once again appears.
Yep.
Now, granted, this is like a little bit of a stretch because this is more about Tony Wilson, the founder of Factory Records, who signed Joy Division. He then later opened up a club that became like the birthplace of like rave, like early rave techno culture. It's about the Manchester music scene. But this movie is fantastic. Steve Coogan is amazing. I fucking love Steve Coogan. He is so funny. He's so funny in this movie. He's like, his performance as Wilson talking directly to the camera is so witty. I also love that like the movie just really bucks like every trend of
Mm-hmm.
all the trends about biopics that I hate, where they like try to overly glamorize everybody and make it look like really cool and serious. And this one tries to do the opposite. It like pokes as much fun, takes itself as little seriously, and takes the scene and like the glamour and the legend of these artists as unseriously as possible, and yet in the process actually gives them the greatest, like biggest, most authentic love letter possible. So yeah, 24-Hour Party People, fantastic movie.
Another one I haven't seen.
Oh my God, here we are on
I'm
opposite
really doing
ends
a
of the
trend here.
spectrum.
I
Yeah.
know.
All right, well, let's keep it moving.
All right. So my number 2 is I'm Not There by Todd Haynes. So this is his Bob Dylan biopic that is about a bunch of people pretending to be Bob Dylan. And I watched this movie for the first time recently, I believe in prep for A Complete Unknown. And A Complete Unknown is like, it's perfectly enjoyable if you just kind of want to go to glorified Bob Dylan cover concert, but it really does nothing to, I think, unpack who Bob Dylan was sort of like outside of the legend, because that guy told lies about his upbringing all the time. Like, you never know what's coming out of that guy's mouth, if it's the truth or not.
Yeah.
And I think like, whereas A Complete Unknown is sort of like, all right, so we'll treat him as sort of like the legend that he is. We won't like really interrogate any of that kind of inner stuff. I'm Not There almost goes like, okay, well, he wanted to lie about who he was. All right, we're going to make this almost like mythic. Like, we're going to go straight to like story status myths about this guy and use those to explore and try to understand the man. The Cate Blanchett section gets talked about all the time, and she's great, but I really love the Richard Gere, Billy the Kid
Yeah.
section. I find it really moving. I really love this movie. I think it's like a really great example of kind of form matching to the subject of the biopic, which I really liked.
Yes. I
Mm-hmm.
really like this movie too. It did not make my list.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I saw it right when it came out, that was kind of the peak of my Dylan fandom. And I was like,
Okay. Yeah.
I like went sort of expecting, and I was much younger, so I was expecting a more traditional biopic. So I remember being
Mm-hmm.
disappointed with the film when I initially saw it. However,
Mm-hmm.
I watched it once more recently, or a few years ago, and really appreciate it for all of those elements that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, once like this is a movie for people who already have a relationship with Dylan,
Yeah.
which is really, really cool, and which I would
Mm-hmm.
consider myself a part of. And like why A Complete Unknown has absolutely, it has nothing to offer me. Like
Sure.
I'm already like, I'm here for the Dylan
Mm-hmm.
experience. I've been on that ride for a long time. Like, yeah, I don't need a cover band um,
Yeah.
with fronted by Timothy Chalamet to add anything to my relationship with this art through the media that's already there. But Todd Haynes really had something to say. He really had his
Mm-hmm.
perspective, a POV, and really, really appreciate him for bringing that to the Dylan story.
Yeah, you're making me think. Sort of. I remember because obviously, like Queen, like I'm assuming Bohemian Rhapsody is not on either one of our lists.
Yeah,
But obviously,
spoiler, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody not number one on my list.
but obviously, Queen after that movie had like a big bump among younger people, and I remember kind of being like, you know what? great. I'm so glad you guys are listening to Queen. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Like, yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I mean, I'm such a snob, and I really try to like keep my mouth shut, because the truth is that like for my wife, who like does not we have some overlap in music taste, but like particularly with like rock stuff, she just like couldn't care less. She gets a
Sure.
lot out of these biopics. Like she gets
Yeah.
more on board, and she gets it a little bit, and we're able to like enjoy the music together. And there's incredible value in that. So while I personally have nothing but negative things to say, like I do have this part of my life that like I am very grateful for these movies for.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I wonder if we have the same number one, because I feel like
Well, I haven't done
I
my
was
number
kind of like,
two. I haven't done my number
oh my
two.
God, please go
But
ahead.
I have
so
a feeling
sorry.
that we do have the same number one.
Okay.
It's kind of like hard. It's like a little obvious.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So, but my number two is Sid and Nancy by Alex Cox.
I knew you were going to pick this, and I also haven't seen this one.
Oh yeah. Of course I would pick this. I mean, so this is a movie about Sid Vicious and his girlfriend Nancy Spungen. And for the same reasons that you were highlighting Coal Miner's Daughter, of like why this movie really works. This movie really works because it's not about the Sex Pistols. It's about this relationship between Sid and Nancy, which was incredibly codependent. And it's just this incredible portrait of codependency and drug addiction, which are themes that like I really, really care about and really, really relate to. It was made by Alex Cox really like just a couple years after Sid Vicious died.
Another quick one.
Yeah, so the movie came out in 1983. It's also very interesting because the movie came out when the punk, like that early iteration of punk from like 76, 77 was already like blasé. People had moved on. And so this didn't, at the time, it did not feel like some sort of glamorous, like, oh, let's all like go back to the punk days. In fact, everyone was like, we would rather move on from this. Like, we don't like, that was a sort of like, it was cool. Well, if you were there, you were there, but we're not there anymore. And so the movie was not trying to it wasn't trying to impress anybody. It wasn't trying to push any nostalgia buttons. And instead it just becomes this brutal portrait of these two people with incredible performances from Gary Oldman and I can't remember the name of the woman who plays Nancy Spungen, but she's also fantastic. Sammy's looking it up. Courtney Love also plays a bit part in the movie, which is
awesome.
Fun.
Chloe Webb, yes, of course. Sad.
If her voice will haunt your dreams from watching this movie. Sid and Nancy, great film.
I'll have to watch this one. I almost did this weekend, but I only had so much time.
Sure. Okay. So should we do number one together? Because it's
okay. I hope it's the same thing. I'm sure it is. Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Amadeus. Okay. I mean, it's the number one draft pick, I feel like.
Yeah, this is such an obvious number one. Yeah, this movie ripped.
Another movie I watched in school.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't remember when. I have a Letterboxd list. It's one of my favorite Letterboxd lists I ever made. It was like movies that I watched in public school, ranked from like, okay, that's pretty normal, to I can't believe they showed this to children.
Oh my God. You need to publish this list.
I will. It's pretty funny. I think I wrote about it at some point, but maybe I'll do that again.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why do you like Amadeus?
It's one of those ones that it's another one where it's been a while since I've seen it, but unlike Love and Mercy, which I remember really liking, but I don't necessarily remember a lot of specifics about, like this movie is like kind of seared into my brain into a weird way, just like the costuming and the sets. I love that it's sort of like from Salieri's perspective. F. Murray Abraham is so good in this movie. He's like, I mean, I feel like this part has really followed him around for better or for worse, and I mean, he's incredible. It's such an amazing movie aesthetically. Like, I think seeing it so young, that sort of just like bowled me over. And I would love to return to it with more adult kind of fresh eyes. But I think the fact that it kind of has stuck with me for so long, even though it's been a while, is really saying something.
Yeah. The storytelling of this film is incredible. The flashback structure of this script, which was obviously originally a play, it's perfect. It's a perfectly structured film. It's amazing because it treats the audience Well, this is like kind of weird to say because on one hand, like probably a lot of the biopics that I hate also, well, I don't know. I think the biopics, a lot of I sorry, I'm like thinking out loud here, but a lot of the biopics that I hate, they kind of it's more a lot of fan service. It's a lot of like
Sure.
inside jokes of like, and we've been talking about how they're educational, and if you've never encountered the musician before, they can bring you into the world.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of sort of like nudge nudge, like wink wink, and they assume that at least a little something, or like you've encountered it in some way, and then they put a little Hollywood spittle on it, and it makes
it's
it
really kind of
sparkle.
like Marvel. It's like very cinematic
Very Marvel.
universe-y,
Yes, it
like,
is.
yeah.
It is. But Amadeus is not. And it does
Yeah.
this amazing thing where it has a character in terms of the priest who Salieri is telling the story to, who literally in scene 1 comes from a position of like, I don't know anything about this music. Like, it's one of the first lines of the film. He's like, do you
But
know
he
anything?
knows the Mozart one.
Yeah,
I
he's
love
like,
that.
do you know anything about classical music? And he's like, no, I don't. And he's like, well, have you ever heard this? And he like plays a little riff from Mozart, which everybody knows. And he's like, well, what about this? And in this way, it brings you into the world of like, you're actually a Mozart fan and you don't even know about it. And then just to have this incredible premise of like, what if, the quote unquote greatest composer that ever existed was this wacky, infantile, ridiculous person.
Pink wig wearing weirdo.
fart joke, sex obsessed, like goofball. And I mean, it's just it's amazing. I saw this as a kid. It really opened my mind. It opened my world. My parents got me the CD disc set, and
That's awesome.
brought me into the world of Mozart. And to this day, WQXR, the New York City classical radio station, is like my most used app on my iPhone outside of Instagram, because I love classical music, just like being on in the background. And some of my very first experiences were because of watching this movie and my parents getting me that CD set.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's just sort of like, what else matches it? I don't know. Like, yeah, it's tough. It's pretty unassailable, I think.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I can guarantee
not too hard, right? Not too difficult.
No, it was fun. It was fun. I was glad to like get some Mike Lee in there, talk about Joy Division, whatever. But safe to say, the Beatles biopics, the 4 sequence Beatles biopics that are all going to be released in the same month, are not going to be back to my list.
We can use this as sort of a transition into Cinemacon, because obviously it's Sony, right, who's doing these movies.
Yes.
And it was like the crux of their entire presentation was the Beatles.
Yeah.
I have so many questions about how this is going to work, because so they're doing 4 movies, and I think Sam Mendes has described it as a sort of like binging film situation.
A bingeable cinematic experience.
A bingeable cinematic experience. There we go. That's way better way to say what I just said. But I'm like, so are they going to put them out like all on the same day? Is it going to be like a month and then like one every Friday?
It's
and
one
if
every.
They're doing that, aren't they competing against themselves? Like, I don't know.
I believe what they pitched it as is that it's going to be one a week.
Okay. All right. And is it like the same movie but from different perspectives, or like through the timeline of the Beatles?
I have no idea. I would imagine that they're going to try to cover the full Beatles career arc, and tell it through a different lens. Each section is going to be told through a different lens of a different member of the group.
That's what I think makes the most sense. And then it's like, how do you think they're going to order it? Because I feel like you have to start with John or Paul, because it's just like the most popular one. If you want to like really grab people's attention, you got to do that. But then like, who is next? Like, is George next? Like, what?
I don't know.
How does it work?
I don't know.
I'm just I am like morbidly a little fascinated to see how this is going to play out.
It is like, if it wasn't going to be glamorizing biopic slop, I would be much more
You
interested.
don't know that.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Sam Mendes has made some good. He's made some bad movies I don't like, but he's made some good movies.
I know. I was on here talking about, when we were talking about Bond, I was talking about how much I like Mendes' Bond. Yeah, no. And like, I've seen a lot of his stage work. Like, he's very good.
Greatest Cabaret, so good.
But I just don't trust like any studio's ability to handle this IP of classic rock.
Yeah.
And also I think it might be a little late. I mean, the core Beatles audience is getting pretty up
Right.
there.
And I'm like, how old is Paul McCartney? I don't want to wish ill upon the man, but like, I don't. Is he going to be like up to being on the press tour? Because they're going to like show pony that old man around, and I don't know how I feel about that. I guess he's fine.
I mean, he's
But,
doing great, but I would rather
yeah.
not him have to do like sit down hangouts with who's playing him in the
With
movie.
Paul Mescal,
Mescal,
which
yeah,
like, it's interesting. The casting is like the only one I'm sort of like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if he actually has it in him. No offense to him, is Barry Keoghan, just because he doesn't strike me as like Ringo. Like, other than I guess like being a little funny looking. Like,
dude, I actually like. I'm kind of here for that. I'm because I am a known Barry Keoghan hater.
You are.
An
That's
absolutely
true, yeah.
noted Barry Keoghan hater, and I like Ringo Starr, but Barry Keoghan he's got the weird, awkward thing that Ringo Starr
But
has.
I have always, he was a little awkward, but I have always found Ringo kind of like low key charming.
He's funny.
And I don't like, and
He's
I'm
funny.
just, I don't want to count him out. Like, he's an actor, but I'm just interested. I'm just interested to see like how these lads, as it will do.
Here's the thing though, is that like, yeah, I'm glad they're trying something new. I hope they stick to it.
Sure,
I have a feeling that they're going to backpedal on this or whatever, but it is a little bit like this. They made a streaming series and they're going to put it in theaters. And
right.
Is that really the way to maximize the theatrical experience?
We have kind of had someone try this, and if the first movie fails, it does not bode well.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This is what Kevin Costner is trying to do with Horizon.
This is Horizon. Yeah.
Which, like, I saw Horizon in theaters. I am a real Kevin Costner head. Thank you very much. I've heard the second one actually rocks. But the first one did not make any money. It was me and two other people in the theater. Me and two dads.
Yeah.
But yeah. If the first movie doesn't do well, like... what are they going to do? I don't know. This was like their whole pitch, and the boys were there, and again, they acted like this was like brand new news, and I feel like I've known this for a year, like who was going to play them. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. We'll see. I'm not excited.
We shall see.
I won't engage.
I will, but it's my job. But I would engage anyway, I think. So let's talk a little bit about what else kind of happened at Cinemacon. I think the big takeaway is obviously, okay, I guess for starters, if you don't know what Cinemacon is, it's the official convention of not NATO. What are they called now? Cinema United?
Yeah, Cinemas United.
Okay, Cinemas United. So basically motion picture theater owners. It happens in Las Vegas every year, and it was last week, I believe. So I wanted to kind of run through some big takeaways, and I do think the biggest one is the theater owners, obviously, are pushing a larger theatrical window. So we've talked about Adam Aron before on this podcast. He's the CEO of AMC Entertainment, and he reportedly said that 3 of the 6 major studios are in agreement that the 45-day window theatrical release needs to come back. So for some context, the theatrical window used to be like 45 days, 90 days. It was a long time for movies to sit in theaters and allow more people to come see them. And especially since COVID, it's just been getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. I think like Black Bag just went to streaming, and it was in theaters for like maybe 2 weeks, like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. So he said this, but he would not say which studios they were. And I listened to the Big Picture podcast, and they talked a lot about Cinemacon. The host went. So I know what they thought, and I know what I think, but I wondered if you have like any guesses as to which 3 studios those are. I think we can definitely say Disney. Probably.
Yeah, Disney already has an over 45 day
right. They do like
window.
60, I think.
Yeah. So they're the only studio that is like committed to like a robust theatrical window. So yeah, we can go ahead and assume Disney. Now, I listened to the Town
same group of people.
Yeah, the Town which was recorded live at Cinemacon, and there the head of NBC Universal would not Bellany tried to get him to publicly commit to a 45-day window on stage, and he did not. So I assume Universal is a no. Sony also in a presentation said the same thing, that they, all this sort of talk around like, well, we like to kind of like tinker with, it's not a one size fit all solution for every, different movies or different, we're trying to maximize profit for different films, and different projects demand different theatrical windows. They're trying to do this whole like individualized, tailored release strategy justification for why they just want to put them on their crappy streaming services as quickly as possible. So yeah, I would count Universal is out, Sony's out. Warner Brothers like seems to be like really banking hard on theatrical. So I was maybe I don't know. But like their average theatrical window right now is like definitely not 45 days. I think it's coming in around like 33, 34. So and I wouldn't it's like I would never rely on David Zaslav to like on his better angels to like do something for like the longevity of the business. So so not Warner Brothers, which leaves only what, Paramount and who am I forgetting? Because Amazon. Well, I don't think Amazon, MGM, or Apple is like counting to the 6 that he was talking about, because they're like, because of their streaming like or MGM's like being taken into this like megacorp. It was not the 6 that he was referencing. So I don't know why I'm blanking here on Mike of who I'm forgetting, but
I don't know. I want to. So on the Big Picture podcast, Matt Bellany put Sony out there as a possibility. I can't remember the specifics, but I believe they have a deal with Netflix. So like their theatrical releases, I think, go to Netflix.
Yeah, there's a licensing
So like they
deal.
already get so they already get paid. So they might be like a little more free to kind of like do that. But at the same time, and they talked about this on that podcast as well, like this is all, it feels so much still like the theaters are just like beholden to whatever the streamers decide. Like, I don't know if there's really any sort of like huge leverage that like anything they can really leverage to like make this happen. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm a little what's the word? Cynical about the whole thing.
Well, just last podcast reference that was not our podcast. Okay, on this roundtable that ended up was recorded for the town. Michael Acuna of Regal Cinemas was pushed of like, why don't you dictate the 45-day window? If you want to play in our screens, 45-day window is required. And he deferred, he demurred, he tiptoed around. He said basically like, well, we strongly believe in the 45-day window. We really want that, but we really value the cooperation that's happening in the industry right now, and we really want to work with our partners and respect their wishes, and all this sort of like tiptoeing around. And it was driving me crazy. I got to be honest. This is I don't know any other way to put this. I do believe this is make or break time for the theatrical owners. They are this business is risking a death spiral. So because of Cinemacon happening, like there's been a lot of numbers sort of being rehashed and sort of a state of the industry. Ted Sarandos was at a different conference. Of course, he wasn't going to take part in Cinemacon because he doesn't believe in theaters at all. But Ted Sarandos of Netflix was at a different conference claiming he was throwing out some wild numbers, basically saying that the theaters are down 40 to 50% since pre-pandemic times, which is an exaggeration. He's also feeling the heat because YouTube was just valued at $550 billion more, which is more than Netflix, and is being decried the king of content. So anyway, all these people are here shitting on theaters. We are down in the United States to 35,000 screens, which is down from 41,000 screens pre-COVID. Now, a lot of those screens were not profitable, but that is still a marked reduction. And the risk that we are running right now is that you have less screens for less profit, which means the studios make less movies, which means they have less things to offer. Yeah. Which is, this process is already happening. But if someone doesn't take a stand and do something, this industry could enter a true death cycle that cannot be reversed until it completely hits some sort of rock bottom. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, the theaters have this proof. They have the proof with things like Red One and all these other big budget movies that came out last year that maybe didn't make a whole ton of money on theatrical, or like barely made their budget back on theatrical, but then had these giant streaming releases, and they were able to recoup. They were actually able to become profitable, and they have the proof in the pudding that the old model of, if you do a big theatrical release, it will lead to home video sales.
Yeah.
They have the leverage at this specific moment, and I'm not sure how long this window, no pun intended, is going to be open for them. So the fact that the theaters, that Cinemas United is not working together and taking a strong stance to say 45-day window or you don't play in our cinemas is mind-boggling to me. I mean, I get that they're trying
Yeah.
to have their cake and eat it too, but like, come on, just grow a pair.
It feels like Adam Aron, his name has come up so much, I feel like, over the past few months, both here and just like, he's out there gabbing. He's a yapper. I love a yapper. But it feels like if anyone is gonna push, it's gonna be him.
Yeah.
But then again, like which I get, like if he is correctly stating that he's gotten 3 of the 6 to like agree with him, I understand not wanting to like put their names on the street right now, I guess. But I'm also kind of like, I don't know, hold them to the fire a little bit, maybe, like we'll
But
see.
why?
But
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a bluff to me. I gotta be honest with you. It
a little
feels
bit,
like,
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like, I think everybody's talking about it.
That's why I keep saying reportedly 3 of 6 major studios. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
he's like, Disney's already in the bag,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gotten like some solid maybes, some solid
Right.
we'll think about it.
Yeah, Aaron. Yeah, Adam. There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So like, but like, I'm really worried. I really think that
Mm-hmm.
this is a critical juncture in the road.
Mm-hmm. Not to be, just to up the doom and gloom a little bit, is a pretty robust lineup this year. I think that could help like a lot. I mean, I think all of it's IP. But like, the new Avatar movie is coming out at the end of this year. Superman should do, hopefully, big numbers, bring people out to theaters. Jurassic World, Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff, the live action Lilo and Stitch, which is crazy to me. But the next Mission Impossible movie, there are these big movies coming out, all the Marvel offerings that hopefully will like create more of a theater going experience than we've had thus far this year. Which I think, everyone kind of always, there's a lot of hand wringing at the beginning of every year, I feel like. But hopefully, though, that kind of slate, even though it is all IP pretty much, helps sort of keep everything alive, push it up a little bit. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
but
I just don't want to end on a down note.
well, no, but that's still all talking on like it. That is still saying it's a hope and a prayer that the market is going to solve itself. And
Mm-hmm.
what I think is that that the market is, as capitalist markets are wont to do, is on a race to the bottom. Movie theaters, movies, theaters cannot compete with the convenience of streaming on a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
If a movie is available in a theater and it's also available at home, the theaters will lose. Convenience wins always. But that's not to say that artificial scarcity in a marketplace is not warranted. Artificial scarcity is implemented all the times by companies protecting their interests. I mean, they're negotiating with companies that, it's not like Netflix is putting their original content on every streaming service. That shit's
Mm-hmm.
behind a paywall. Like, they got that
Mm-hmm.
thing blocked off to make sure that you have to sign up for their service in order to see it. So theater owners, man up, cowboy up, ovary up. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to make this whole like, patriarchal thing. But like, come on, like, show a little
Yeah.
backbone. Like, this is your time to step up and say something and make a stand, because you will lose the accessibility war. You will lose on just
Yeah.
pure product.
Yeah. I think the worry is, I agree, someone's got to like take a stand. Is the worry not that the answer will just be like, well, no, and we don't need you? 'Cause I don't, I
That's
don't
what.
know.
Yes,
But
that is the worry right now. But the
yeah.
truth is that every studio not named Netflix needs theatrical. Like
Hmm.
and everyone
I
is very
agree.
everyone is
But
very everyone is very they're valuing their conversations and they like having this healthy relationship. I'd like to see. I think that this space could have a little bit more adversarial action. I think a little bit more lines in the sand need to be drawn. The theaters did the studios a solid by by lowering all these theatrical windows in COVID. They Now is the time to call those checks, to cash those checks, to call in those not favors, but to make their demands and save their business because this thing is not going in the right direction. And frankly, they also need a narrative shift because right now the theaters just seem so subservient at all times, whereas the studios and the streaming services are doing the exact same things, but because they're on the offensive, we all just take it for like, well, that's just the way things go. And that's wild to me. Like, take the narrative back.
yeah, I do think Adam Aron is trying. Like,
He's
I
trying.
appreciate the trying,
No,
but yeah,
talk your talk, King. Like, come on, let's
it's
like,
like call my bluff. Come on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to hit at CinemaCon? Anything that you found interesting or?
Well, Cinemacon. I think a little bit about Warner Brothers and a little Mike and Pam update.
Oh, little Mike and Pam update. All right.
Yeah, Mike
So
and Pam are there.
Mike and Pam, our buddies Mike and Pam. So we talked about this, I want to say a week or two ago. We talked about Warner Brothers' sort of auteur filmmaker push and all the hand wringing that's kind of going on at Warner Brothers because of that. And that's headed up by Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy. And there have been some, apparently, according to Bloomberg, some early and informal talks with potential successors, as the studio has released a number of titles that have disappointed at the box office. So the talks, Bloomberg says, again, early and informal, no decision has been made. And then this is from a Hollywood Reporter article, and they reached out to Warner Brothers for a comment on this, and spokesperson Robert Gibbs told Bloomberg that the rumor, or Bloomberg did, it's at least Hollywood Reporter is reporting all this kind of secondhand. And a spokesperson told Bloomberg that the rumor of an imminent leadership change at the studio is not accurate. There have been some rumors kind of floating around World of Real that co-CEO of DC Studios, Peter Safran, has kind of been like in the mix a little bit. But other than that, this is kind of all we have at this point, unless you have something else. I just wanted to put it out there since we were talking about it a couple weeks ago. And apparently they might be moving forward with giving him the deuce.
Yeah, so big drama over at Warner Brothers. A lot of there was a lot. We were a part of it, or we were on the bandwagon of like a lot of hand wringing, a lot of talking about Mike and Pam's, auteur slate, and they gave this big budget to Bong Joon-ho, and it didn't work out. Mickey 17 didn't make its budget back, and they gave all this money to Paul Thomas Anderson, and oh my God, what's going to happen?
That trailer looks fire, though.
Dude, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll get to that. Okay, so all this heat comes up. It's leading up to CinemaCon. Mike and Pam step out on stage. They do their presentation. Don't acknowledge it at all, which I'm like very grateful for. Like, just kind of just stick to the book. Meanwhile, they're real like a lot of the heat that they're catching was for stuff like Joker Folie à Deux, which like they was already in process like while they were when they got hired. I guess they take responsibility for the marketing. And then also the other thing that they're getting criticized for is Alto Nights, which was a David Zaslav like personal favor green light. Like they apparently like went over their head to give Barry Levinson the permission to make to give the budget to make Alto Nights. So all this just seems like so ridiculous. Meanwhile, I think that they had a little bit of confidence because Minecraft, the movie, holy shit, this thing is a fucking hit. Like,
right, I know.
So the Minecraft the movie was a week ago. It was tracking for a $70 million opening weekend. It comes out, makes $163 million domestic when the final tallies came in yesterday, and $150 million global. They might have $1 billion movie with the Minecraft movie. which is wild to me that anyone would want
I
to go see
can't.
this.
My friend took his son, and that's sort of like where I think the interest may lie.
Totally.
But he actually asked me, he was like, have you seen this? And I was like, no, I had to miss that screener. It was on a Sunday. Like, come on. But he was like, I just want to know like how much time they spend in the real world before they get to Minecraft world, because I don't think my child can really be interested in the real world. And he was really trying to like gauge that. It's a total side note, but it just made me laugh. Like, I need to know how long it takes for them to get to Minecraft world.
Wow.
Before I decide if I take my child.
Wow. The future of the world, ladies and gentlemen, the future of America. Yeah, well, I think that it's pretty fine-tuned to the Minecraft fans out there. I've seen some cinema reaction videos that seem absolutely insane to me, as people cheer for their favorite Minecraft characters.
I never played Minecraft. I don't really get the hype.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But you know what? Good for Jack Black. Love Jack Black and Jason Momoa.
I do too.
Jason Momoa, just go to the
have
kids'
no
movies
problems
forever.
with the guy.
Oh, I do. Get him out of my adult films. Get him away. Get him out of Dune. Get him out of everything.
He's good in Dune.
No, he's not. Oh my God. Okay, do you want to have this fight now? You want to have this fight on mic?
I don't know. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Not if it's gonna last a really long time.
Okay, we're gonna put a pin in this. We're gonna put a pin in this. But Jason Momoa is absolutely the worst part of Dune, and I will die on this hill. Yeah, the real Duncan, Idaho deserves better. Anyway, Minecraft is crushing it. So Mike and Pam, I think they've gotten. If it's being run sort of like the Oval Offices right now, where like, you know, fucking Laura Loomer can like walk into the office and all of a sudden like people get fired. Like if that's how David Zaslav is operating Warner Brothers Discovery, which he might be, you know, maybe the success of the Minecraft movie has actually like taken the heat off a little bit. Not to mention that from everything that I read, the DC James Gunn, Peter Safran presentation was pretty wanting. Was
Superman maybe a little worrisome, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the movie was so worrisome or more just like this presentation sucks. And like this 30-minute actor Q&A with my boy Nicholas Hoult was like just not really entertaining, and it was not very like well rehearsed, and it was not very well thought out, and the footage they showed is like fine, but like
that's what I heard. The footage was sort of like like, you know, yeah.
I think it was
maybe not quite
maybe not.
Like,
yeah, I don't think it was
this isn't quite as good as I was expecting. But,
I think it was just I think it was just meh, and just that it wasn't presented in a way that was compelling. It was just a bit of a letdown, not because it was bad, but because of like that's kind of just what we expected. Like you're not really doing anything for us. But all that to say is that we mentioned Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another, movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor. The trailer dropped. I think this movie is going to be a hit. I'm
so hype. It looks so good.
It looks so fun.
Yeah.
It looks like the exact kind of movie that I have been hoping for. I am not even a Leo guy, but like, oh my God, like I'm so excited for this movie. A funny, modern adult film that's, I mean, come on, like bring it on. Let's go. I think One Battle After Another is going to be a hit. I think it's going to be a breakout hit.
Dear Lord, I hope so. That trailer, it's just like so exciting. I've watched it so many times. Ugh, very exciting.
The other thing about that film that it's awesome is that not only does it look smart, adult, funny, incredibly relevant, but it also looks incredibly memeable. And there's something that is like so necessary about like big budget films right now. It's gotta be memeable. And this film is fucking memeable.
Yeah. And also, my girl Regina Hall, I've been on that train since day one. She's the best. I'm like very excited she's working with this type of filmmaker. I'm so excited. That movie looks dope.
Yeah.
I was going to say I also watched the trailer for Wes Anderson's new movie today. Also looks like a lot of fun. Very excited.
Yeah,
the Phoenician Scheme, I believe.
Phoenician Scheme, yes.
Mm-hmm. We love it. And that got me thinking, this is total side note. And I'll ask you this question. If you could be on the set of like any, like just like not so much to like learn from the director, or like not that kind of thing. Like I would like to learn from this person, but just like I would like to experience what it is like to be on the set of this director, who would you pick? Because I think I would pick Wes Anderson. He throws like dinner parties every night. It sounds amazing.
Yes, I've heard about the dinner
Yeah.
parties. It does sound lovely. Ultimately, I'm not there. I'm not there just to like make
Bob Dylan.
friends.
You're not there to make friends? Are you on The Bachelor? What's going on?
No. I just got that dog in me, Sammie. I don't know if you know this.
I see.
No, to reference another filmmaker brought up this episode. Mike Lee is my ultimate set experience.
Okay,
I would
cool.
I really just would love to see how he does it, how he makes his movies. And yeah, Mike Lee is my ultimate like director experience, especially for someone who's still alive and working today.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, moving on to our last item for the week. So this is a little bit of an older article. There have been some newer articles about this in more recent months, but this Deadline article is the first one that sort of made me aware of this. It's by Melanie Goodfellow. It came out in late November last year. So this article is titled "Streamers Have Invested Over 1 billion in French Projects Over 3 Years." So essentially, the country of France, I believe since 2021, has had something called SMAD decree. That is a French acronym that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce. Can you speak French? Do you know how to say that?
No.
Nope. Okay. No. Okay. Oui. But essentially, this decree from 2021 has been making streaming platforms funnel money back into local productions to the tune of, according to this article, $1 billion. So essentially, the tenets of the decree, it requires streamers that make at least 5 million euros from French subscribers to invest 20% of their French revenues, into domestic and European content. Streaming platforms must pay into France's CNC funding body. So it's like a tax that gets redistributed to creators. And about 2/3 of investment have to go to independent productions, where French producers, not the streamers like Netflix or Disney, would retain ownership of the project. Also, the last tenet is sort of streamers can exclusively show content for up to 36 months, but can maintain non-exclusive rights for up to 72 months total. And the result of this is, in just 2 years, so that's 2021 to 2023, French creators have received about $950 million. So we're going to round up to $1 billion there, of investment boost from streaming platforms. So Netflix, according to this article, has become, quote, such a major player that it's now challenging TF1, France's second largest traditional broadcaster, in content spending. I didn't know about this sort of structure until I read this article. Had you heard about this before?
I had heard about this, but I wasn't
Okay.
exactly sure of the success of this program, which it's
Yeah.
staggering.
Right, I know. And it's obviously very different from how things work over here. And the model has sort of been spreading in Europe. So Italy does this, Germany does this, Belgium does this. It's kind of become a very interesting way of just like getting money back into the pockets of creators, which I don't know if we would ever be willing to do this over here, but I think it's a really interesting model. And I'm kind of shocked I hadn't heard about it before now. But I guess now they're like, hey, we have definitive proof that this like really works like we thought it would, I guess.
Yeah,
But
well, it's really interesting because obviously the first thought as an American reading this is like, oh my God, like why can't
please,
we do
everything
stuff
we
like
read about
this?
Europe, we're like, please come over here.
Yeah, but there's a double-edged sword to this. I mean, look, like the
Sure.
French market is able to do this, number one, because at this point in the business life cycle, in the media life cycle, film is a secondary business. It's completely dependent upon these tech giants in order to even be economically viable. The old model of like the film studio was like the big dog on campus. Like that's not how it is anymore. The film studios are getting eaten and gobbled up by these tech conglomerates, which are all American companies. So the only reason Europe is able to do this is because they're benefiting from all the innovation, all the capitalist dominance, all the structural things that are built over in America. And none of those things are getting built in Europe. And if you were to ask Europeans, hey, would you rather have $1 billion invested in French, unique products, or you could have the first $1 trillion company like based in France, they would probably choose the $1 trillion company. I would imagine. So
That's the beginning of our poll. Please respond.
yeah.
Kidding.
So, look, like America, this will never happen in America because
No.
this is a byproduct of the regulatory state that operates in the EU. That regulatory state kills, it kills a lot of innovation. It kills a lot of the capital needed, investment capital needed to do these sort of big projects sort of on the new frontier of technology, and none of that happens in Europe because they regulate the shit out of it. Now, the byproduct of that regulation is that you do get this sort of cultural protection, and France is
Mm-hmm.
historically really, really good about this. And so I certainly don't look at this as a model that will ever come to the United States. This
No.
thing is only
No.
this thing is all being funded by United States companies. Like
Yeah.
let's be real. Like
Oh, for sure. But I do think it's sort of, on that note, I think it's like, yeah, like make them put money back into, like, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. And the reason why I
yeah.
really wanted to talk about this today is
Mm-hmm.
because this is the result of gatekeeping your marketplace and the power that you have when you, as an organization, in this case the French government, gatekeep their marketplace, because all these companies would
Mm-hmm.
like access to the French marketplace. Is it the biggest marketplace on the earth? Absolutely not, but it's still a marketplace and someone's going to get that money. So theater owners like
Back,
they
bring it all back.
take a cue and see how socialism, in this case a socialist approach to free markets, or making markets less than free, basically say it's in some ways, it's just a gate, saying if you want access to our market, you're going to have to pay this tax. It's kind of like a tariff, to come into France. Theater owners follow this model, see the power that comes from from gatekeeping access to your marketplace, and see the benefits that can come of it. France was certainly not abandoned by the big
Mm-mm.
media conglomerates. No, in fact, they are willfully paying their tax, and they're actually figuring out that how to benefit from it, because they're in turn funding, producing, and making a whole bunch more successful art, that this government system is funneling to the actual creators within the country, the home country that they need to help. So I think it's awesome. I don't look at it as a model that will ever work in the United States,
No.
but
Yeah.
like on a corporate level within the United States, I do think that this is once again evidence of why theaters should make a strong demarcation of
Yeah.
you want our screens, 45-day window, pay your dues.
Yeah. Take the model, apply it to something else. Makes sense. No, there's never any like thought in my mind that this could work in the States. I guess I was mostly shocked I like hadn't really heard of it until now. But again, like I think $1 billion ain't nothing to scoff about. So I understand why they're kind of like, hey, look, we did it.
Oh no, it's
Yeah.
very cool. And I mean, look, the
Mm-hmm.
French economy um has a lot of problems, like
Sure.
otherwise. So like, but historically, they have done film really, really well. The other thing that like only makes this possible, and it's like really important to keep in mind, because there's so many young American independent artists out there looking at the model in Europe, and like Europe makes better films than we do. Like straight up, they make more interesting films. They make better
Mm-hmm.
written films. Like more interesting stuff comes from Europe. And it's such a cliche that like people who really love movies like get sucked into the Euro cinephile
Yeah.
world, because like they
Sure.
just make dope shit. But at the same time, like the dope shit that they make, it certainly never makes $1 billion. I don't think France has
Right.
ever produced a movie that makes $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
They usually don't make anything that even crosses $100 million. Whereas in the United States, like that is like a pretty normal occurrence. And so it's the way in which these like very large profits really warp the market space, because in America we have this problem of that movies are so expensive to make, and the crew and the cost of making the movie is so high. But on the positive side, it's like, well, yeah, because our movies can make 100 million, 500 million, can make $1 billion, and the artists deserve to get a piece of that pie. Whereas
Yeah.
France, that's not even like on the table for them. It's not even something that they dream about, because it just never happens. So you're able to keep the costs of their movies incredibly low. It's just not the expectation. And so they're touting the fact that like these projects that were invested through this fund have an average budget that's higher, a higher average budget than the normal film
Mm-hmm.
that's made in France. So they're averaging like a €9 million budget. But in the United
Mm-hmm.
States, like a 9 million euro
That's
budget.
nothing. Yeah.
That's a very small budget for sort of
Mm-hmm.
certainly for a major studio. That's more that's a medium-sized A24 film, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
a studio film. And I just think it's important to keep these things sort of remember, it's shitty in America because American movies are victims of their own success.
Yeah. One other thing you mentioned kind of the note about bigger budgets, and it's interesting to me. It seems that is sort of the result of this rather than more shows. Like they mentioned specifically that it hasn't necessarily like actually led to that many more projects, but the budgets of those projects just seem to be bigger, which I thought was an interesting point.
Well, it's a limited market.
Yeah.
Limited market just by population and by the people
Sure.
that speak the language. So limited.
Neither of us speak that
Much
language.
more limited distribution opportunities. And because the budgets historically in France are so much lower. I mean, the average movie
Right.
costs like 5 million euros to make. That's where the growth opportunities are. Oh, we've got all this free cash flow. Okay, well, like we can zhuzh up like our existing pipeline as opposed to just like spraying and praying out more films.
Sure. It's kind of a good idea. Maybe we should move to Europe. Sounds fun.
Yeah, I don't have the cash to move to Europe because
neither do I. Don't kill my dream.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Even though since our last episode, the United States has basically kicked off a global recession, unfortunately, America's still the place where you make your money and Europe's the place where you spend it.
Oh my God. I can't look at any of my investments right now. It makes me too sad. All right.
Oh, yeah.
On that bleak note, that was great. What a fun episode. Do you have anything you'd like to plug or anything coming up?
Of course. April 30th, the world premiere of my debut film, Withdrawal, is playing at the Atlanta Film Festival. We have already sold over half of our tickets. We are on the way to selling out. If you have not gotten your ticket yet, go to the Atlanta Film Festival Eventive webpage. You can find a link in the bio and get your ticket. If you're here in Atlanta, you're going to want to secure that soon because we will sell out.
Yeah, I don't have my badge yet, even though I should be getting a press one, but I might just go ahead and grab a ticket just to make sure, make sure I'll be there.
I can't wait to share this with you.
I'm so excited. This will be great.
Yeah, what do you got going on? What do you got to plug? Anything for us to read?
Yes. So as always, subscribe to Seen by Rough Draft if you aren't already. That's where you can see or read all my reviews, movie reviews, interviews. We've got a very interesting interview with the director of Warfare that's coming out this week. And actor Kit Connor will also be on that interview, which was pretty interesting. You might know him from Heartstopper, so this is a very different turn for him. But yeah, so that's where you can kind of find everything that I write, Seen by Rough Draft. So check it out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sammie. This has been a joy. If you like this episode, if you like the show, please follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. Hit us with those 5 stars and leave a little note. Did you like our picks for the music biopics? Are you Team Aaron or are you Team Sammie? Let us know in the reviews. We would love to hear from you. As always, you can follow us at Crash Zoom Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And you can email us crashzoompod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Sammie, this has been wonderful. Until next week, I will talk to you later.
See you next week. See ya. Bye.
Bye.